Hey everybody, welcome to McAmus Studios. I'll be your host, Mr. McAmus. These videos are for percussion only, and I'm going to give this home lesson a try. And there'll be a set of 4 videos because there are 4 groups of standard rudiments, and I want you to learn 16 of the 40, and we're going to go over them each by family. This first family we have is the roll rudiments. A lot of you guys are familiar with this. We're going to try out a little bit of music here. Hopefully this shows up on the camera. And I'm going to tell you exactly what rudiments I want you to know. Now in your teams, you have a sheet that looks something like this. And it is the 40 standard rudiments. I have them in 2 pages. And that's what we'll be covering, so you can actually reference that on your teams. You can print it out or put it on your computer or whatever. I'm going to tell you what rudiments that we're going to be learning, so you can look them up on your sheet, and I'm going to give you demonstrations of each. So let's get started. The first is called the single stroke roll, and it is basically the sticking is just right, left, right, left. This is rudiment number 1 on your rudiment sheet. This is the simplest one, and it just simply goes like this. Just basically as fast as you can. Timpani players use this roll. You can use this roll in the trap set. You can put different accents with it. And things like that. But it's the simplest. Now when you do these rolls, I want you to concentrate on your grip. Now notice, I'm not bouncing the sticks like this. I'm not teacupping, right? The pressure, the fulcrum is somewhere in here, right? But notice I have these 2 fingers just lightly, right? I can do a little squeezing action. And I want you to concentrate when you do these on the, right? So if you're too far back, you don't get any bounce. If you're too far forward, you don't get any bounce either. So you basically want to hold the sticks where you can get a little bounce out of them. Also, the rule is you should be able to put a quarter on top of your hands when you do this. So, a little intro to stick grip and a single stroke roll. Okay, rudiment number 2. The buzz roll, also called the multiple bounce roll. This is rudiment number 4 on your sheet. And basically, that is getting as many buzzes from one stick as you can. It's kind of the very first roll that you learn. So, speed it up. Now notice there's an indeterminate number of rolls. I don't have exactly 2 or 3 or 4. I just buzz, 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 buzz. This will also help you get the feel of what your sticks are supposed to feel like. If I speed it up, so a multiple bounce roll, you can see it's just a note marked with a Z, and that is rudiment number 4. Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes, the double stroke roll, also called an open roll. I call it double bounce roll. And the reason is if you can see the sticking, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. And that's how it's marked. So this you have to be very specific with. You have to actually hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce. If I'm going to speed that up, now notice I'm not going hitting it, I'm hitting it and letting it bounce. Right? So when I do that, and this is the first opportunity we're going to get to use our metronome, I want you to try to play all these rudiments from this one on at about 100 beats a minute. Then when you speed them up, you can actually take that double time. So one exercise you can practice with this to practice your double bounce roll, because it's pertinent to all the other rolls, is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. So when I speed that up, here's, let's say, 16th notes. Now I'm going to put a double bounce with each one. I'm going to slow that down. And the reason this becomes important is because for the next 3 rudiments, you're going to be doing double stroke open rolls. So I'm going to play this exercise slow and then sped up. If I speed it up, now forgive me, my technique's not great, but the sped up version is when you're doing this. If I slow it down, you can tell what I'm doing. I'm just tapping 8th notes or 16th notes and adding a double bounce to each. And that becomes your double stroke open roll. Okay, so that's rudiment number 6. We are going to skip ahead real quick to the 9-stroke roll, which is rudiment number 10. Now the reason we're going to do this is because this is just a quarter note tied to another quarter note. Okay? The reason it's a 9-stroke roll is because of this. Now basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this quarter note that's tied, so roll, tap, roll, tap. I'm dividing it into 16th notes, and I'm putting a double bounce on each 16th note. Okay? And I'm hopefully going to demonstrate that for you right here. So without the roll, it goes roll, tap, roll, tap. That's right here. Here, if I take this quarter note and divide it into 16th notes, it's okay. So now I'm going to take each of these 16th notes and put double bounces on them. Okay. The reason it's called a 9-stroke roll is because when we take these and divide them up and then add the double bounce, 2 strokes, 2, 4, 6, 8, and the tap equals 9. So 9-stroke roll is just basically a quarter note rolled into another quarter note. So when you see these, let's say your tempo's here. Roll, tap, roll, tap, roll, tap, right? So basically I'm going to go roll, tap, roll, tap. I'm going to subdivide this. Now I'm going to stick the double bounces in there. Now the hard part is when you do all these rudiments, you need to do a right hand lead and a left hand lead. So your rudiment should look like this. And then left, right, left, right. Okay. All the rudiments should be right hand lead and left hand lead. Okay. So that is essentially what your 9-stroke roll looks like, and that is rudiment number 10. Roll right, roll left, right, right, left, left. Okay? So we're going to jump ahead a little bit, and we're going to do the, so we'll come back to the 5-stroke because that's probably the harder one. The 17-stroke roll. So if you're paying attention to a little drummer math class, you'll see a half note into a quarter note. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Roll, roll, tap. Okay. So where does the 17 come from, math people? So essentially I'm going to break this half note into 2 sets of 16th notes, right? Just like we did with this. Instead of breaking down to 1, since it's a half note, it gets 2 counts, we're going to do it into 2. Okay? So the 17-stroke roll, that's where you get 17. We divide that. There's 8 16th notes with a double bounce on each, that's 16, and then a tap on 17. The math might be confusing. Hopefully I get a chance to explain it to you in person if you don't get it. But, so let's do the roll. So 1, 2, tap. 1, 2, tap. Okay. I'm going to divide it into 16th notes. 1E into 2E into 3. 1E into 2E into 3. And then I'm going to add a double bounce to each of the 16th notes. Now if I slow that down, 1E and 2E and 3, there's 17 strokes in there. And you can still hear the beat. You can still hear but. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So if you see a half note rolled into a quarter note, that's where you're going to get your 17-stroke roll. And then left, right, left. Okay. So again, it goes back to that double bounce thing. So if I set my metronome at 100 beats a minute, right? Okay, so any questions so far? These are the ones you're most going to see, is the quarter note roll and the half note roll. Now we're going to try rudiment number 7. And I believe that is our last roll rudiment. So the 5-stroke roll is an 8th note tied to an 8th note. So for all you math people, since we divided that quarter note, which is 1 count, into 4 different beats, this note, the 8th note, will only be divided into 2 8th notes. So if you have 2 8th notes with double bounces on each into a tap, that is 5 strokes. So here's what that sounds like. So in an 8th note, roll, tap, roll, tap, roll, tap, roll, tap. I'm going to put my 2 16th notes here. Roll, tap, and I'm going to add double bounce to them. Notice 5 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, sped up. If I put them with my metronome, 1, so it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That was pretty sloppy. I probably need to practice a little bit too. But those are your basic roll rudiments, and I'm going to show them to you one more time on camera. So that was the single stroke roll, right, left, right, left. Number 4 rudiment on your rudiment sheet is a multiple bounce buzz roll, which is just indeterminate bounces. Number 6 is the double stroke roll. That's the most important one because that leads into all the other ones. Then we do an eighth note into an eighth note for 5-stroke, rudiment number 7. The 9-stroke, which is a quarter note into a quarter note. And number 15, which is a half note into a quarter note. If you have these rolls down, you have pretty much what you need. The rest, there's a bunch of other ones, they're just mathematical, they're, you know, you can figure them out or whatever. So practice those, practice them at 100 beats a minute. I really like this metronome because you can dial up tempos and stuff, you know, subdivisions of beats. Find a metronome that you like that works for you, and please practice that. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with this, which is just that same exercise I just showed you at the beginning. Practice those rudiments, you'll be well on your way. Drummers, rock on, and I hope to see you soon.